In the last 2 weeks, the IDF has been terminating multiple Hezbollah leaders in amazing operations. Also, once again, striking in the Dahia neighborhood in Beirut, targeting the 4th floor of a building that the Hezbollah chief of staff, Samtim Tabtabi, this guy was in charge of teaching the Houthis how to carry out more terrorist attacks against the IDF forces. And also, he was sent now in order to arrange the regroupment and raising 2,500 more terrorists.
Are we going back to war in Lebanon?
Maybe.
I thought we were done.
Well, ceasefires don't last so long in the Middle East, I guess so.
Well, guys, that's where we're here today to give you an answer. No, that camera. To give you guys an answer to the question. You guys at home, an answer to the question that we've been asking ourselves. What is about to happen in Lebanon? I mean, we've had a ceasefire there, aside from the Gaza Strip. And the ceasefire has been, I have to say, it's been one of the
Well, I think
the least enforced ceasefires.
I don't know, the most bombs that were hit in Lebanon against Hezbollah terrorists during a ceasefire.
Yeah. Well, so what's been happening there? And we're going to break this down steadily. Yair, if you guys have missed the reports, he spent many hours reporting on this topic in recent days. Many hours. Many hours, many years at this point. So go back a couple of days and follow the news. But we'll just say this. What has been happening in Lebanon is a slow and steady escalation in which the Hezbollah terrorist organization is trying to regroup, in which the Lebanese army, who is tasked as part of the ceasefire agreement, tasked in rebuilding, stopping Hezbollah from regrouping.
Taking away Hezbollah's weapons and consolidating them in the hands of the state.
Of the Lebanese
which sounds normal to all of us, but Hezbollah says, no, we want to keep our weapons because we are the only thing that defend the Lebanese people.
So exactly. So that stops, and then at the same time, the IDF has been looking and said, well, we've learned our lesson, guys. We see Hezbollah operatives. They're opening up weapon caches. They're trying to build anti-tank positions. They're trying to get in sniper nests. They're trying to take over territories once again. And the IDF looks and says, absolutely not.
No way. We're not trusting not the UNIFIL forces. We're not trusting the Lebanese National Army. We are tipping them, telling them, look, what's happening. But if they don't deal with it themselves, then the IDF is destroying the threats to our forces, to our border communities, in order to make sure that people can get back to their houses. And guys, until now, we've been talking about what's happening in Lebanon, but now we need to stop for a second and hit the subscribe button. Really, the subscribe button helps us reach more people around the world. And we are recording this as the sun is setting behind me. It's Jerusalem. So take a look at the view before it will all be black, because once the sun sets, you won't see anything in this window behind Tomer, and you will only have Tomer on a full screen, which is amazing.
Don't believe Yair, that's actually a green screen behind us.
Not true. Not true.
We're in Tel Aviv right now and not in Jerusalem. I'm just kidding. That's a real screen, which is why the sun is setting behind us right now. By the way, Yair and I were too busy having coffee and talking instead of coming to the podcast.
Yeah, so we kind of missed the golden hour.
Missed the golden hour today.
Okay, so we see not only Hezbollah on the border with Lebanon, we saw in the last week even Hamas operatives and Hamas training facilities in Lebanon, regrouping. We see Iranian again saying that they will support after we eliminated the chief of staff. Iran's just send a message that they will retaliate, or what did you say?
Retaliate.
Retaliate.
Yeah, they threaten us again.
Yeah.
It's happened, I don't know how many times in the past 2 years.
We're standing here, and from that point, first I think we need to explain who is this Tabtabi that Israel put so much effort again to create this super
sophisticated strike. Exactly. Yeah, so let's begin. Okay, sure. So let's say, first of all, Haitem Ali Tabtabi. That's the name of the Hezbollah chief of staff that was just recently assassinated in a targeted operation by the IDF, targeting his flow.
What's the name of the operation?
It was named Black Friday.
Because it was on Black Friday.
Black Friday. Yeah, it was named Black Friday.
It was on Black Friday.
Mati, you don't watch Boots on the Ground every day How you don't know it?
Sometimes I miss it. I apologize.
So anyway, okay. Haitam Ali Tabtabi was the chief of staff of the Hezbollah terrorist organization, and he was brought to Lebanon now to help this organization because they kind of ran out of senior, experienced leaders.
Interesting. Why?
Because
They all
since
disappeared.
this war started, they've all been taken out by the IDF
Unlived.
in a targeted operation to take out all of the leadership of Hezbollah, starting from Hassan Nasrallah, the head of this organization. And Haitam Ali Tabtabi, before he was sent by the Iranians to Lebanon to make sure that the organization keeps growing and rebuilding, he was the project manager for the Houthi terrorist organization in Yemen. So this guy was training the Houthis on how to carry out attacks against Israel, also including a ground invasion that was planned through Jordan and through Syria, according to multiple sources that Tomer has regarding this specific attacks against Israel. But also, they had a ballistic missile against us. So they pulled him out of Yemen and placed him in Lebanon with the purpose of recruiting 2,500 new Hezbollah operatives.
I believe he
to
wanted
fill.
to recruit more. That's what.
But
he had time to do.
this is the amount of operatives that were taken out of the battlefield by Israel. So he needed to recruit these 2,500 new operatives, train them, and reshift the entire strategy of how Hezbollah is operating as a military organization. So one of the key things that this man was doing is training small cells so that in the case of a retaliation, Hezbollah will not lose dozens every time the IDF strikes.
Let's pause on what you just said. This is really interesting. I think it's fascinating. It shows you how fast these people are learning the lessons.
Adapting.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because
Adapting.
one of the reasons Hezbollah was so effectively stopped by the IDF was because they had a centralized command. Yeah. And many of their units, because the war broke out so quickly, they didn't have a command come down on time to attack on the 7th or the 8th of October. So they missed that window of opportunity. And thank God for that. It was a miracle.
Exactly.
But even later on in the war, the fact that they had a lot of centralized command, and when commanders were eliminated, the chain of command was broken as far as
They
communication
didn't know how
was.
to do, when to act.
Exactly. And a lot of units could have been on their side more effective and were not because of that. Now they're trying to learn the lesson from this. And I want to pause before we go on and ask a very obvious question. I would imagine that recruiting thousands of people into a terrorist organization and training them and equipping them is really expensive. And Hezbollah's lost most of their assets. Who's paying for all of this good stuff?
So we know that the Iranians have not stopped to pour money into Lebanon. They just changed the methods of sending this money, that making sure that it reaches the Hezbollah terrorist
How
organization.
much money are we talking about?
Tomo, do you remember?
I remember the number.
don't
we
have
had.
the number, but-
No, I remember the number last week.
8 billion or something
It was
like
a
that?
billion.
Right?
It was last week. They said that the Iranians likely, and we're talking in like 3 or 4 months, managed to smuggle close to $1 billion into Iran to fund the rebuilding of Hezbollah. And let's frame this conversation for a second. $1 billion is a lot of money for any country.
For sure.
Iran doesn't have running water in its capital
Or electricity.
or electricity many hours of the day. That's how bad things are in Iran. They're dealing with a infrastructure crisis that is historical magnitude for their country. And instead of spending money on rebuilding their infrastructure and helping and alleviating the suffering of their people, they're paying a huge amount of money to rebuild a terrorist organization in northern Israel. That's what they're doing. That is a lot of money. And even if it's not a full billion, and the estimate made by multiple governments, by the way, is false. Let's say it's only 700 million.
Still a
That's
lot of
still
money.
a lot of money.
Still, yeah.
You can build a whole lot of schools and a whole lot of water purification plants for hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're not doing that. They're using it to create a terrorist organization. The Lebanese people, this is where I think it gets tricky for people. The Lebanese army and the Lebanese government are terrified of Hezbollah. And that's why they're being ineffective in dismantling them, because they look at Hezbollah and they say, these guys are armed to the tooth. They're heavily funded. They're paying salaries to their terrorists.
4 times more.
Yeah, they're
4 times more. A Hezbollah terrorist gets 4 times more
Than a Lebanese soldier.
Than a Lebanese soldier.
Exactly. And then you look at a country that's been at war for decades. The country's been destroyed by civil war. They're terrified of Hezbollah, and rightly so. It's a very, very violent terrorist organization that has absolutely no, moral inhibitions when it comes to assassinating political adversaries or enemies that they perceive, including previous prime ministers of the Lebanese country, including other politicians in Lebanon, including many members of villages neighboring to Sunni communities that they decided to kill. And that's or Sunni and Shia, I guess. So they're very, very violent. People are afraid of them, and the money keeps flowing in. Yeah. And behind the scenes of all of this, the U.S. looks with concern from, let's call it, from a 30,000 foot point of view, and says, we need to do something to rebuild Lebanon. And they look at the Lebanese government and they say,
they're pushing them. They're sending this.
What's his first name? Aoun, the new.
Wait, the
Ahmed
president.
No, Michel Aoun.
No, Michel Aoun's the previous guy.
Then who?
Michel Aoun is his uncle. Michel Aoun is the uncle of the
Joseph Aoun.
Yosef Aoun, that's right. Michel Aoun was his uncle, I believe. Joseph Aoun is the current prime minister of Lebanon. And he's funded to a certain degree, by an international coalition that the Americans are part of. And they look at him and they say, dude, do something about what's going on in Lebanon. And he looks at them and he says, are you not seeing what's going on here? Do you not?
I can't, yeah.
Do you not realize how complicated this is for us? And then Israel looks from the side and says to the whole thing, well, where's this conversation going?
Yeah, what's next?
What's next?
I mean, because, so it's officially been stated that Hezbollah should disarm of the weapons, and all the weapons should be consolidated at the hands of the Lebanese National Army, which makes sense that the weapons should only be at the hands of the state governing a country. But to get there, you need to fight a hugely funded terrorist organization that is involved not just in fighting wars, but also in providing health services, jobs, and social security benefits to its Shiite members and Shiite villages, mainly in the southern part of Lebanon, next to the border with Israel.
Exactly.
So it's very, very complicated to deal with this situation. And the Americans are at the edge of saying, okay, Lebanon, looks like you can't do this. We might let Israel just continue and completely dismantle this organization.
Now it's a catch-22.
Yeah,
and that's where it is you can't force a country into nation rebuilding.
Yeah,
exactly. You know what I mean?
You will build your country.
Be a democracy, or I'll beat you into being a democracy. It doesn't work that way. Violence and military power only gets you so far. Yeah. And in our region, all long-term solutions, all of them, Lebanon, Syria, Gaza, all those solutions come through a very, very clear solution, which is local politics. Not Israeli military pressure, not international pressure. That's the only way to get to it.
But it looks like that the only way to dismantle these terrorist organizations is by force, because none of them want to give up their arms. We've seen that in Gaza.
No, yes.
We see it in Lebanon.
That's not the question. Is it your force, or do we empower someone local to make the change? That's really the question.
But
exactly.
It's again this cut. It's a year past from Naim Qassam started to be the head of Hezbollah, right? Yeah. And everybody laughed at him in the beginning, that he is this nerd that, I don't know, he is a teacher and he's not like his previous... but we see after a year that Iran is back on the table, the Lebanese government can't do anything, and by how the IDF is attacking, Hezbollah is working and they building up their arms, they rearming heavily, they regrouping. They saying, and again, maybe we don't listening as we listened before, we didn't listen before. They saying we will attack. We know our goal. Our goal is to destroy Israel.
Yeah, to destroy the Israeli way of life and its values. And they've always been consistent about it. Let's look at it from a different perspective.
But the Lebanese people want to come visit or have a vacation in Israel. That's
the Lebanese people are not one group of people, though. And
there's multiple groups, yeah.
It's multiple groups. They're a country that was, in the past, a very, very multicultural and multi-religion country. It no longer is. And it's not just Islamic. There's a whole history there that has to do with the Palestinian Liberation Organization, really overthrowing or throwing off the demographic balance in the country, and years of civil war that really caused a lot of the strong and especially the Christian population to leave the country. The point here is different. Is their country needs to be rebuilt. And Hezbollah is this very, very violent actor within Lebanon, that its continued existence and the fact that the Iranians somehow are able to bring in more and more weapons into and cash into Lebanon, it allows Hezbollah to continue to disrupt whatever process is supposed to happen here. And again, to answer what Yael was saying before, there is no path forward. There is no path forward where the IDF can say one day, we hope not to have, like, look at the projections for next year. We hope not to have over 60,000 soldiers in reserves at any given time. 60,000 people is the size of two large neighborhoods in Jerusalem, of two small cities in Israel. It's a very substantial amount of people. If you go into the breakdown of how much of that is, we're fighting on the Syrian, Lebanese, and Gaza border right now. Plus, when you talk about strategic balances, Iran, ballistic missiles, etc., plus the concern of what would happen in Jordan and Judea and Samaria and all of that jazz. So it's a lot. Our only way forward, in a way that is stable and peaceful in this region, is to stabilize and rebuild Lebanon, Syria, and the Gaza Strip. And the Americans,
big task to do
very
for
big
a small country as Israel.
And look, if you look at what Hezbollah is trying to do right now, they're not trying to just say, I want to take over Lebanon again. They're trying to say, a bigger picture, I want to take the Middle East back to where it was 2 years ago, to a place where we have a balance where you're terrified of us and our ballistic missiles and our short-range missile threat over Israel. Exactly. We want to take the Middle East back to a place where the Islamic Republic of Iran is able to destabilize on an ongoing basis, and they're willing to put a lot of money into making sure that happens.
Well, that's their plan in, staying relevant in this region, because they've lost their proxies. They've lost the pathway to Lebanon through Syria when the Syrian regime collapsed, and they lost a lot of their drug smuggling, economical incentives in that country. They've lost the leadership of Hezbollah. They've lost a lot of their effectiveness in this region, including proxies in Iraq that used to be completely loyal to the Ayatollah regime in Iran. And also we are receiving reports that the Houthis are doing whatever that they want. They're not taking their orders from the Islamic Republic of Iran as they did 2 years ago or even throughout this war, because the leadership of the Iranians has been weakened, and their proxies are seeing that and starting to operate on their own, which is a big threat for the Iranians because they are not as strong as united as they were. They've placed this ring of fire around Israel, around United States bases, with thousands and thousands of missiles that can threaten the Israeli forces and also the United States forces and the allies. Now they don't have that ability so much. So that's why they are only pushing with threats and with their nuclear program, or whatever is left of it.
Or with threatening Jews around the world.
Around the world, yeah.
Yeah, that's the biggest choice right now of Iranian and Hezbollah right now, is to target Jews worldwide.
Well, they've done it in the past. Against Israeli targets, Jewish targets, and Western targets. And they've done so repeatedly. And that's a trend, by the way. Hezbollah.
I just saw Benny Sabti writing about it.
Really?
From the 80s.
He's a cool guy, Benny Sabti. I like him.
From the 80s to the 90s, that's the goal of the Hezbollah, to activate terror attacks.
I think we need to remember that every time someone attacks Israel, there's someone that helps to protect the people of Israel and comes to the aid of the people of Israel. And our partner today is exactly those people.
Yeah.
And maybe you can tell people about them, Yael.
Sure. It's so in Israel, guys, I don't know if you've noticed, but we have a lot of emergencies. But we also have a lot of good stuff that require medical assistance, like births. People have a lot of babies in this country. And the ones that are rushing, if it's to a rocket that just landed, and if it's a terrorist attack, or a woman giving birth in this country, are Magen David Adom volunteers. These are people that are trained as medics in their lives. Some of them just have a little bag in their car, and they get a phone call saying, in your area, you need to react to this incident. Go and save lives. And they stop everything, get out of work, and drive as fast as they can. They have like a response rate of maybe 2 to 3 minutes, something super fast. We've been with them in an ambulance rushing to emergencies in the city of Haifa in Israel. It's just amazing to see them work. they're composed with around 30 or 35,000 volunteers in Israel. But the organization, Magen David Adom, needs a lot of, training and gear and ambulances to react to all the stuff that are happening in the land of Israel. And that's why they are dependent on people like you to support Americans' friends of Magen David Adom. So guys, if you want to be part of saving lives in Israel, go to savelifeisrael.com. Again, that's savelifeisrael.com. And your donation will go through ambulances, through training the new volunteers, to better equipment, better gear, better walkie-talkies, and everything that this life-saving organization needs. On October 7th, they were the first to reach all the areas that were under attack, and many of their members also lost their lives. So this is an amazing organization. I think they're our first partner here on TBN Israel.
One of the first.
One of the first, right?
First, for sure.
And we've been with them for 2 years. We love the work that they do, and this is a way to support them. SaveLifeIsrael.com.
Can I add one more thing here?
Yeah, sure.
Aside from people donating, I remember this because we filmed several times with them in their blood bank, and I make a point whenever I can.
Sounds like a vampire movie.
Yeah.
Blood Bank.
We'll get to it in a second. Or blood restaurant or blood bar would be a vampire movie. Blood bank would be a Swiss banker vampire movie. Anyway, we filmed several times with them in their blood bank. We were there together.
No, I wasn't with you.
You weren't with me?
I saw the video.
I was with you.
Anyway, and I donate on a regular basis, but I wanted to say this. I believe there's a way also for people that come on tours of the country to also donate blood.
Really?
I'm almost 100% sure of this. That you can do this. If that information does exist, reach out to MADA. You can, if you bring
Magen David Adom.
Magen David Adom. Where's my camera? If you do this, you can. I'm having trouble with cameras today. I don't know. Now they went back to Yael's camera. Come back here.
Don't follow the light. You're not a cat. It's okay.
Where were we? If you come to Israel, you can, as an organization, you can donate money to MADA, which helps save lives, but you can also donate blood, which also, in turn,
saves lives. Sure.
Anyway, and it saves lives on the battlefield and in civilian life.
There is a need for blood donations in Israel.
So back to where we were. Israel has systematically, over the last year and a half, has removed the majority of Hezbollah leadership. And thankfully, we have in our script here the list of people that have been removed. And this is just, we're not even talking about the first wave of strikes. This is the second, the third, the fourth wave of targeted assassinations. Israel really did an amazing job of maintaining real-time intelligence of what's happening in Hezbollah leadership, eliminating them, and then rinse, wash, repeat.
You know what's interesting is that Tomer gave me all these reports about Hezbollah leaders and members undergoing surgical surgeries, meaning plastic surgeries, meaning changing the way they look because they're afraid of the Israeli targeted terminations.
I wish that our audience could see that.
Could see what?
They're looking
you've seen them?
like Ken Barbies. They look like it's the most extremist face surgery I ever saw. Yeah.
What did they get it on for a discount?
I don't know. They're doing that in Iran first.
Or in Iran or in Lebanon in some
weird places, and they all getting out looking like Korean K-pop models.
Wow. And these are Lebanese Shiites.
Hardened terrorists.
Wow.
Hardened terrorists. Anyway, so back to this point. So what we saw this week is again more of that, is real-time intelligence by the IDF inside Lebanon, deep penetration of their organization, real-time intelligence on the ground, and then the IDF, the Air Force, the IAF comes in and closes the loop with a targeted strike, or special forces, or a missile, or 100 different ways. Time and time again, we're able to eliminate them, and it's a good thing. I'll say this again: we got to interview a couple months ago now. I'm trying to think when it was. One of the chief intelligence officers for the Israeli army, who was responsible.
Month and a half ago.
It was a month and a half ago. Was responsible for the Hezbollah brief, or the Hezbollah file within the Israeli military intelligence, and he just tells you how the morale within Hezbollah collapsed throughout the war. Where these people, they hear the stories.
I can understand that.
And it's like, we look at it and we're like, thank God, good riddance of this guy. They look at it and they say, my God, there's no point in like leaving the house today. They just target every person. I mean, systematically. Every time someone comes out of hiding, he gets a text message, he pops up his head, bang, he's gone. Every leader that's appointed, bang, he's gone. And it just shows you how effective the Israeli army has been in fighting Hezbollah.
Especially in Lebanon, yeah. Not so
sent
much
you
in
the photo.
Gaza in the beginning of the day war.
Absolutely.
But listen, I remember the time after the beeper attack that they were just afraid to hold their phones. Well, what did Tomer send?
Tomo sent me pictures. It looks like AI pictures.
That I want to see.
That can't be
This can't
that
be
can't be
real.
real, Tomo. That's AI.
Oh,
That looks
they have the softest
most supple lips.
skin ever. What is it? He showed
Can
the
we-
pictures
can we-
of
Can we
the.
show this to the camera? How can we? I don't know if we can see that.
I don't
It's,
think.
it's hilarious.
Wow.
That is hilarious. I don't think this is real, but it's quite funny. It shows Hezbollah terrorists who went through like plastic surgery, and they look like a bunch of like smooth faced models
Yeah.
without the beard and stuff like that.
Yeah. Nice. Big lips. Wow. Okay. Where are we? I don't know how we can get back
Yeah,
to
get
topic
back on
after
track.
this.
Okay,
Yeah.
what going on to happen in the near future? Do we gonna see IDF boots on the ground with a full maneuver, disarming
No.
Hezbollah and doing the dirty job that the Lebanon?
I don't think
No,
so.
no.
I don't think so. But we already
Continued presence.
have boots on the ground in 5 outposts in Lebanon. We have boots on the ground in Syria, and then from these locations, the IDF is conducting ground operations towards Hezbollah locations to dismantle their territory, their activity, and their operatives, and to gather intelligence. So it's happening, but not a full-scale ground invasion of the Hezbollah parts, south of the Litani or north of the Litani. It's not going to happen. But I think it's going to be a few steps. One, the United States will increase its pressure on the Lebanese government to do something, to act. Most likely, it's not going to happen, and Israel will continue with its targeted assassinations of the leadership of this organization. Anything else you think will happen?
I don't know. I think the big deciding factor here is the regional stabilization.
I think, Mati, give us the political perspective on America and Lebanon, because there is a pressure from the American.
That's what I was saying. The big deciding factor, it isn't necessarily internal in Lebanon. There's a regional piece that has to do with the U.S., European countries, and then behind the scenes, the Qataris, the Turkish government, the Egyptians even, and even the Saudis tie into this story. And the question is, can the U.S. rally in enough regional support at the same time to really pressure these changes to take place? And it's a very, very complicated question to answer because we don't know. They don't know. They're putting pressure on every possible front. We're putting pressure on every possible front, the Israeli army. And the hope is it's enough to tip over the political sort of tides in Lebanon, in Syria, in Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip to really change the region. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. We mentioned this previously. The American government is putting a ton of pressure on the Lebanese government, but it's a question of more than just, what's the word I'm looking for? More than just politics. It's a question of military capability, and it's a question of, beyond that, finances, and then being able to fight against the Hezbollah terrorist organization. So the regional piece is big, and believe it or not, what the Turkish government does, what the Qatari government does, what MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, says and does in coming weeks, that will have a big effect on what ends up happening in Lebanon on the ground. And by extension...
Really?
Yeah.
You think the Saudi Arabia will have an effect on what happens in the ground?
Because it's all interconnected.
But let's say Saudi Arabia joins this Abraham Accords. How will that affect Hezbollah in Lebanon?
It's all about perception of power. The different sides, because this last week has seen this instability in the relationship between the U.S., Qatar, Turkey, where there's this rope pulling war that's taking place, where people are trying to pull in a different direction. And the question hovering above everything sort of in this equation is do you think President Trump in the U.S. has enough power and projection of power to force its will on all these countries to be part of the deal? The deal being Gaza Strip, the ISF, International Stabilization Force, Lebanon, Syria. It's this package deal. And interestingly enough, if MBS says, I'm going with the Americans fully.
Mohammed bin Salman.
Mohammed bin Salman, yeah, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. If he says, I'm going all in with the U.S., that shows everyone, look, if top dog MBS, if he's in, we're in. And right now, he's had a bit of cold feet. We're hearing reports it's a little more complicated than we thought.
Right, you just reported that looks like the smiley meeting between
Wasn't
him and
that
Trump
smiley at all.
Wasn't smiley at all because Trump said, okay, join the Abraham Accords, but you have to normalize relations with Israel. I said, listen, I don't know what's the percentage, but most of my population don't like Israel at all. So there's no way that I'm gonna, sign this normalization relations because it will be very, very bad for me. Politically in the country.
Yes, exactly.
And then Trump said, this is very bad.
Well,
But still
Trump not sounding.
he wasn't happy. But the thing is exactly that. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And people are looking, they want to see where the tide is going. And it's I think you need to play this day by day, whether or not the US can continue putting all this pressure or if something's going to break. Something being, it being a shift dramatically in Ukraine, something being a shift dramatically in China, something like that, that could really change things. And it's bizarre to think about it, but it's what do you call it? The butterfly effect. It's all interconnected, all of it.
Yeah, and also there's another option, okay? Let's say the Ayatollah regime in Iran collapses, or the Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is 83 now.
Yeah.
Who's going to replace him? If he goes down, maybe the entire policy of feeding into these proxies like Hezbollah, the Houthis, Hamas, will change completely from the source, from the head of the snake, which is the Ayatollah regime in Iran.
Yes.
That might change everything in this region. Because then if the funding stops to Hezbollah in Lebanon, the fighters will not continue and fight for them.
I don't know what they're going to do. What do you do if you've spent 35 years being a Hezbollah terrorist? Do you go and say, I'm going up to...
well, first of all, he can join ranks with Al-Qaeda in Syria, maybe. I don't think that we lack terrorist organizations in the region. Remember, ISIS, they brought in terrorists from Europe even to join their ranks. So I don't think that the region is lacking terrorist organization recruiting for...
Well, how many of them have pockets as deep as Hezbollah and the Iranians do?
I would say that, I'll tell you something they might. I mean, Turkey, I think is gaining more mercenaries in this region.
That's interesting.
So that would be maybe their next job. Scary, but it might be.
Yeah. So I think projections, we say in Hebrew, prophecy was given to the fools, not in the sense as there's no point in it, in the sense that people that try to read into the future in the Middle East usually
get it wrong completely.
They or get applause or they get stoned the next week. It really depends. That's both a biblical truth and a current truth. But the point here is things are changing rapidly. And Hezbollah, that was an organization that was the fear in the hearts of people around this region, they're weakened beyond repair to a certain degree.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they, together with the Iranians, won't try to once again build their power. That doesn't mean that at all.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I think that's where we drop off today. Because in this region, there is no one-off kind of a process. It's all a balance. And I think the hope should be an overwhelming push, a push towards diplomatic pressure, a push towards regional pressure, push towards regional rebuilding that pushes back Iran, pushes back its proxies, pushes in aid and assistance and less fear-mongering and war-mongering.
Maybe financial incentives for people to build stuff instead of destroy stuff and invest more in economics and instead of rockets, missiles, training terrorists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think it would be great to go back to a system that the countries are governing themselves and not are just being puppets by these terrorist entities that are controlling the governments of the countries.
Yeah, I mean, and people forget there was a day, it wasn't when we were born, but a few years before I was born, the Middle East looked very different. Lebanon was a very different country. Syria, not so much.
Syria, we don't know if it's going to be better than what it was.
It can't be much worse than what it was. 50 plus years of dictatorship. It doesn't get much worse than that. Yeah. They were already on a downward spiral. But so to my point, there's an opportunity to really rebuild. and with an influx of cash and opportunities and deals and IMF, International Monetary Fund grants and all that.
Thanks,
jazz.
Mati. I was rolling my eyes here. What?
And humanitarian aid and all that stuff. It could be a very substantial change.
Yeah.
It really could be what this region needs. The only issue is there's no easy fix here. There's nothing you can bomb into becoming a stable country. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, exactly.
So we need prayer on all fronts. Pray, and I know how bizarre this sounds. Pray for the leaders of all countries, for them to know God's will and for them to do the right thing. For Macron in France and for Keith
Salman.
Keith Stormer in the UK.
Yeah.
Is he still there? Yes.
I think so.
This week in the UK, and for President Trump and all these other MBS, and the leaders of Jordan and the leaders of Egypt, all these people to really keep pushing in the right direction, and for the U.S. and for Israel to have the focus to really keep them on the plan, and then we can see something amazing take place.
Exactly, guys. Well, hope you enjoyed this episode of TBN Israel, the podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share the truth with love, and keep praying for the peace of Jerusalem.